Pistols have had their fair share of spotlight in the Warzone meta, sometimes being super broken and game-breaking, and others acting as a viable off-meta option. There's way more than you remember, so today I want to share with you the entire history of pistols in Warzone. Now that overkill is built into everyone's created class, it's kind of forgettable that you would even use a pistol in the first place, but trust me, there's a lot of times where a pistol was your best option in the entire game. Go ahead and comment your favorite pistol in Warzone as we get started. The DMAT was a Cold War pistol that was the first pistol to completely taint Warzone. Don't worry, we will talk about the snake shots later. A 3-round burst handgun that was arguably better than any of the other burst guns, including the M16 and AUG, which were also very broken at the time. The cool thing about the DMAT was that you could use them akimbo or just single, which for most metas, it's either one or the other. These debuted alongside Rebirth, so people were pretty quick to figure out that these pistols were the play since Rebirth was so small. As far as Verdansk went, well, it was one of the best guns to lock down buildings with, since the hip fire, range, and damage were simply better than most of the SMGs, if not all of them. Like I said, you didn't have to go the akimbo route, that way you could further the range if you wanted to use it like an SMG rather than a hip fire free-for-all. The DMATs eventually got hit with a nerf, and if I'm not mistaken, was mostly targeting the akimbo attachment, but pretty much didn't touch the gun as far as it went when you just like had it solo equipped. That meant for the rest of Warzone 1, this was still a pretty solid choice for a secondary, and there were plenty of 2022 gameplays to support that claim. Seriously, I don't know how this didn't get nerfed any harder than it did. Also, we used the DMAT part of this list as an honorable mention for the Modern Warfare 19 Renetti. More on the Renetti later in this video. Similarly to the DMAT, the Psychov excelled in both akimbo and single use. The main difference here was that it was fully automatic and also supported a whopping 80-round drum magazine, which was more than any SMG at the time. On top of being fully automatic and the monkey bollocks drum support, it also had not only a better TTK than any SMG, but better mobility as well. This made it objectively the best close-range gun you could use, and that being a handgun was actually pretty important for Warzone 1 since you didn't have to run overkill. Keep in mind, the second perk slot was arguably the best slot at the time, so now you just had one more advantage over the competition. The akimbo Psychovs with the 80 rounders gave flashbacks of Modern Warfare 2 G18 since you seriously had so much forgiveness with all these rounds. However, the single use Psychov may have been the better option because of its lack of recoil, crazy mobility, and insane accuracy, letting it dumpster on guns like the MP5. And just like that, we are already at Warzone 2. This next one kind of got swept under the rug for a couple reasons, I think. Reason number one was that it was Warzone 2 and people just didn't play it or forgot about it. And 2, it didn't last long whatsoever. And 3, when you could use this gun, it was on a map that just was not made for it. I'm of course talking about the P890, which was a pistol from Modern Warfare 2 that was honestly pretty trash until you put the akimbo attachment on it. Mentioned in my Broken Guns video, the akimbo values had some sort of bug that I didn't quite understand, but pretty much like quintupled your damage when compared to the single-use P890. I'm not joking, it wasn't like just having 2 of them, it was literally like having like 3 or 4 shoot at the same time. I don't know, it was weird. Not sure what was going on here, but it seriously had the fastest TTK in the game, and it wasn't even close. It did come with a couple of drawbacks, such as the magazine size being pretty small. I don't think you could have more than like 12 or 15 rounds. It was also semi-automatic, and the hipfire accuracy kind of sucked, which in turn gave it not the best range at all. And like I said, this is before Resurgence, so on Al Mazrah, that's not exactly really helping its cause. But whenever you were in range, these things melted you, and it felt like you were being killed by a one-shot shotgun. Mind you, this is also in a game where snipers didn't one-shot, and these dinky baby pistols killed exponentially faster than a 50 cal sniper, which for the sake of continuity is honestly just hilarious. The X13 was basically a fully automatic Glock, which pays homage to the infamous G18 from Modern Warfare 2 we were just talking about with the Psychov. Now, the same concept is going on here, but it was not near as good as its predecessor. Pretty much only viable when you dual wield them. It supported a 50-round drum magazine, so double monkey nuts with the super fast fire rate, and you had a pretty solid close range getup. The hipfire accuracy wasn't the best, so once again, you had to be nearly point blank for this to work, and this is also before Warzone 2 had Resurgence, so got overshadowed for that reason as well. Also, the raw damage output wasn't anything special, so I would for sure consider it one of the weaker spots on this list, but definitely a lot of fun to be had with them. There also would be an alternate option for a single wield build. That was with the impact barrel, which kind of acted as a conversion kit for Modern Warfare 3, turning this thing into like a compact SMG. Similar story here, still nothing to write home about, but definitely a fun alternative since the movement was insane. This was added towards the end of Warzone 2, but more importantly, while Vondel was at the peak of its hype. The reason this is important is because this was a map where you often found yourself in water, and as you know, handguns are fully functional underwater. But when you introduce a brand new fully automatic pistol that is above average in its class, it birthed a new type of player that would find any excuse to swim and beat anyone in a gunfight because they had much more firepower. Also, keep in mind that in Warzone 2, you didn't automatically have a pistol at your disposal like you do in Warzone 3. So yeah, if you found yourself in the water against anyone with the siege, you just lost. Also, at first, I'm pretty sure there was no support for akimbo, which they would eventually add later on in the game, which you would think would be pretty broken, but actually wasn't at all somehow, so that was nice, I guess. Anyways, eventually the siege would just get nerfed and now is probably one of the worst pistols you can use in the game. If you haven't noticed by now, I haven't talked about the snake shots yet, and that's solely because I've talked about them in several of my videos. So I'm going to describe the snake shots through the videos I mentioned them in as a shameless plug. For starters, they were broken. They were also hated. They were part of the meta 3 separate times. They were a shotgun. And now we're talking about them because they're a pistol. If you've been an OG on this channel, you probably know by now that they're just ridiculous, and the fact that they've been brought back so many times, whether it's on purpose or on accident, is just completely inexcusable. You'd be lying if you say you didn't have some fun with them along the way. Anyways, back to the video. Aside from the snake shots at launch of Warzone 3, the Core 45 would get a conversion kit that gave it a binary trigger, which if you don't know, a binary trigger fires a bullet for not every time you pull the trigger, but every time you release it as well. So throw in you trigger spamming and you can get a ton of high power shots off very quickly. The craziest part of this was that it increased your damage range and velocity, which helped this substitute your SMG even more so when you also factor in having the mobility of a pistol. I'm pretty sure this thing is still actually really good, and I'm not even sure if it's been nerfed whatsoever. That being said, I'm also surprised that not more people are using it or have used it. I feel like I can almost count how many times I've been killed by it, which just kind of feels off. I guess the only drawbacks here are the fact that you have to spam the trigger, so I'm sure for a lot of people that's just kind of a big turn off. But even so, the recoil isn't all that hard to control, so overall still a really good option. I think most people just prefer their traditional SMG though. Also, there was a crazy exploit with this pistol with mouse and keyboard players where you could bind your fire button to your mouse wheel and set the delay to 0, so every tick of the mouse wheel registered as a fire, and since it's shooting 1 shot for every 2, it made this thing shoot faster than any human could ever possibly do, no matter what. I think it was really funny, and a lot of people were like saying this is like cheating and people should get banned, which I don't know if I'd go that far, because once you're not using that gun, then if you're shooting like a sniper, like a normal gun, you have to like spam the scroll wheel even just to shoot like fully automatic, so I don't really know like how practical it really is. But definitely one of the funniest things I've ever seen in Warzone. Not to be confused with the snake shots that were equipable on the exact same gun, the tier revolver would eventually get a Jack Beholder rifle AMP that was yet another niche option in Warzone. It took the revolver and gave it a long barrel and better accuracy to treat it like a mid to long range carbine. For a short period of time, this thing would 2-tap at any range, and some say 1-shot, but I don't think that's true, but please correct me if I'm wrong. Anyways, during the 2-shot era, even then, there weren't many people using this, and that's due in part because it only has a 5-round magazine. This means that assuming you hit your 2 shots, you only have 3 left to finish your kill and defend yourself before you have to reload, so really not all that practical. Also, I think it's genuinely hard to use since the velocity isn't anything special either, and like the recoil feels weird. I don't know, everything about it is just like just clunky. The support for a longer range optic was hilarious and made this one of the funniest yet still somewhat viable guns that Warzone has ever seen. So now we're back to a pistol that was introduced in Warzone 1, but would make a return in Modern Warfare 3 and was honestly pretty mid at best, but that would all change once the Jack Carbine AMP made an appearance. This was seriously one of the most broken pistols that we have ever seen in Call of Duty. With a TTK leaps and bounds higher than any other SMG at the time, we had a very unstable state of Warzone to coincide with the launch of Rebirth Island. Seriously, you had insane mobility, fast ADS, immediate sprint to fire, no recoil, and damage on par with a shotgun. If I'm being honest, this is one of my favorite metas just because you could win fights that you had no business to win. You could seriously push any building with maximum confidence because of how little shots you needed to land to get a kill. This would get nerfed, I kid you not, within a week of it entering the meta, so it didn't last long whatsoever, but made for a lot of fun times. Another fun fact is that Nixta currently holds the kill record on Rebirth Island using this gun. Now, me personally, I totally thought the WSP Stinger was an SMG up until making this video. Well, turns out it is definitely a handgun. The akimbo WSP Stingers are still pretty dang good as of me making this video. I don't think they've been touched at all. And it's honestly a akimbo machine pistol done right, since it excels in a couple of categories instead of all of them like a lot of guns on this list. For starters, it only supports a 32 round magazine, so you'll struggle to get more than 1, maybe 2 kills if you're lucky. I mean, seriously, pretty much every other gun on this list has at least like a 50 round magazine, and the Psychov having 80 is just like crazy. The damage is nasty, the fire rate is moderate, and the range was terrible, which made this a very well-rounded option, but definitely not a super meta play by any means. I'm pretty sure it has the highest TTK in the game right now, but I kid you not, that is at like point blank range, which is how it should be, because outside of like 8 meters, you're pretty much screwed, not only because the damage fall off, but also because the hip fire is so bad that you just won't hit your shots. But that is the entire history of pistols within Warzone. I'll be honest, I think I covered just about every pistol there is worth talking about in Warzone, but if you think I missed something, please let me know down below. Also, comment your favorite pistol in Warzone. Check out some of my other Warzone videos. Join my Discord if you're feeling crazy, and if you liked, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike, and thank you so much for watching.